can do it. All right. It is connected on my end, but not on the YouTube yet. Oh, there we go. Okay. I think we're live. Hopefully I have done this correctly. And yeah. All right. It's working. Welcome to our fourth, fifth, I don't know, not very many. What's going on with series. This week we're talking to Sera Muñiz from the Rocky Mountain MicroFinance Institute. I am in particular indebted to the Rocky Mountain MicroFinance Institute because they were who I worked with to start my very first business, which was I thought would be an urban gardening business, which turned into a landscaping business and which eventually became Outgrow Your Garage. So RMMFI has been pretty integral to my own journey. And in a story Sera might have heard before, one of the things that's really special to me about RMMFI is that Aaron Witzke, who no longer works for y'all, but was originally one of the people who helped onboard entrepreneurs, was the very, very first person outside my own family who looked at me and said, I think you can start a business and I think what you're doing is really cool. And that's just a really nice feeling to have, that like somebody who doesn't know you and doesn't know anything about you is like, yeah, cool, start a business. So yeah, so I'm really jazzed. I've known Sera a really long time and I love what RMMFI does. And I will let Sera introduce herself.
Hey, thanks. Yes. So Sera Muñiz, I'm Director of Programs and Operations for RMMFI, which is Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute. We are a community development financial institution, a CDFI, and a nonprofit. And we are here to help people access entrepreneurship and create their own wealth, create their own self-efficacy through the power of what entrepreneurship can give to folks. And we really specialize in helping people who come from high barrier backgrounds. You know, we are a character-based lender, we are an educator, and we bring a community to the way we support entrepreneurs. And we can help folks who might not be able to access capital through other means and get their business started. So yeah, that's what I do. I help oversee and administer all those programs here.
Yeah, so let's start with kind of the basics of what that means. A lot of people have no idea what a CDFI is. It stands for Community Development Financial Institution, and you are distinct from a bank. Why? What is a CDFI? Why is it different from a bank? Like, what is this gap that you're filling in? Why does character-based lending matter?
Yeah. So CDFIs are very cool organizations. We are here to be lenders with a mission, right? So CDFIs have the flexibility to create different parameters by which they lend and support folks through their financial means, right? So banks have stricter rules and generally than CDFIs do. And CDFIs usually have a targeted mission around who they're trying to serve and how they're trying to help them, right? So there's a community component to it. There are a lot of different kinds of CDFIs. There are housing CDFIs, there's credit union CDFIs, and then what RMMFI does is small business support CDFIs. So we are here to help folks who may not be able to access capital for their business through a traditional bank. They can come to us. And on top of capital access, CDFIs bring technical assistance, the educational support that is really needed to make that capital go much farther for the business and be successfully used. And so when entrepreneurs tend to work with CDFIs and have the educational support in addition to the capital they need to launch their business or grow their business, they tend to do much better because they're getting that educational piece.
Yeah. So when you think about that educational piece, what are the things that you find this type of entrepreneur support? A lot of the entrepreneurs you work with haven't ever started a business before, or maybe they have, but it hasn't gone super well. They're trying to figure it out. And the real goal there is, how do you use entrepreneurship, how do you use business ownership as a method of achieving stable income, whatever that means to that particular entrepreneur. And so what are the things that you see? Where does that education really make a difference in the lives of the entrepreneurs you work with?
And, I should say RMMFI, even compared to some of the other amazing CDFIs that are in Colorado who do small business support, there's a bunch of really great organizations here. We tend to be even more micro than many. We start with folks who really need, we educate first and then we loan. So people are working with us for about 6 months, getting the fundamentals for their business in place before we even add capital to the mix. And there are other CDFIs who do it differently because there are people who are maybe more capital ready, but we really work with folks who need that 6 month educational journey. And what we're going to walk through with those folks is kind of in the first stage, how to really make sure an idea is very meaningful, unique, and valuable, and different from everyone else out there. So we really start at that idea phase to make sure that folks understand that their idea is worth investing in, right? Is this even worth my time and my energy and a risk? Starting a business is a risk. So we really start in that phase, and then we move into our launch phase, and that's really the core of when we're going to help folks get their business started. We offer a 12-week core program that goes through marketing, operations, finances, and management. So people walk away with an active business plan, something they can action on, and a year financial projections and what they need to underwrite a loan with us. So it's a really holistic approach because they're getting this classroom education experience. And then on top of that, they have a mentor team they meet with to kind of put those business concepts into action right away. I always like to tell people this is not like a college course where you're learning in theory. This is really practical. We're working with folks who are starting businesses. They're in that first year. They need to bring that money. As you mentioned, it's like, how do we make this an income that can stabilize us? And we need that faster and sooner. So we're active through the program to apply concepts right away. And I think it's really that community piece. I mean, as you mentioned with Aaron Witzke looking at you and saying, you can do this, you can make this happen, this is worth being a business idea. That community piece that we bring into kind of our model of education and entrepreneur skill growing is really through a community. It's through our mentors, it's through the classes. And I think it helps people really believe in themselves and their ability to see themselves as a business owner and run their business.
Yeah. And it's funny how that belief sort of grows on itself. And one of the things that I say a lot about the necessity for small business education, and especially small business education for things like services and micro manufacturing and these little tiny things that are really never going to get outside investment, right? There's a lot of businesses that you say, okay, great, look for investors, look for people who are going to give money to your business, and then that's where your capital comes from. But a lot of businesses are never going to get that kind of investment because they're not going to generate the types of profits for investors that they're looking for, right? Because that is fundamentally what an investment is. You put money into a thing and then you get more money back out. That's the goal. And a lot of businesses don't do that. And so one of the things I have often said about RMFI is for those businesses that really aren't a good candidate for outside investment and those kinds of things, this type of education can really remove some of that risk, but also create a luxury for failure.
Mhm.
Where one of the things you hear a lot of statistics that say, oh, yeah, 50% of businesses are going to fail in the first 5 years. 90% of businesses fail in the first 10. And so if you have put all of this time and all of this money and all of the energy into starting a business, being able to fail without destroying your entire life is a huge deal. Like not everybody can afford to take that risk.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I really appreciate about the work that happens in this educational space is that you are literally creating a safety net in a lot of ways to say, okay, you do not have to risk every single thing you have. If you mess up, you are not going to be homeless and hungry. And I think that's really huge
Yeah.
in,
And that's a powerful message, I would say, from all CDFIs. The CDFIs are community based, right? That they are building a relationship with you. They want you in the hardest times to call them up and tell them that it's a struggle with paying the loans because we want to give the grace. We want to give the room for as you said, the failure. It happens, right? And not to mention we're working with folks who are overcoming the highest economic struggles, right? We are trying to help create economic justice. And when you're working in a population where life is happening to them on a regular basis, you have to give grace for life to happen, right? And so, This is why I love CDFIs. Any CDFI, bank, housing, anything, you're working with people who really care about the community and they're going to see you as a person and not just as a client at a bank. And not that all banks are bad. I don't want to knock banks. Banks have wonderful things and great places. But if you have been marginalized and you don't have trust with traditional banking systems, which a lot of our high barrier communities do, I mean, when we think about redlining and how real that is, overcoming financial trauma can be really hard. And CDFIs can play a really good role in kind of creating a new pathway and understanding the power of debt and how it can grow a business while at the same time giving you the human that, you know, the humanity that you need to work with a banker.
Yeah. And I think just that power of making people more comfortable with financial institutions in general, particularly populations that have been really disenfranchised by the system in general. We had Lauren Jenkins on the show a couple of weeks ago who does a company called Mini Market. I don't know if you know him. He's in Denver also, and he's awesome. But he talked about the work he's doing in youth around wealth management and breaking down some of those barriers and saying, okay, great. How do we break some of this generational trauma around wealth and around money? And I just think that's so huge, particularly in the world we're in right now, where we really are seeing a lot of if you have money, it's easier to get money. And if you don't have money, you're not. And I was at an economic presentation last week put on by a professor at Colorado State University. And he was talking about a K-shaped economy where the rich, like, we're in this kind of weird position where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And so only some parts of the population are seeing a recession. And it's kind of an interesting place to be, particularly for me, who spent all of my time before being an entrepreneur, being very, 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 very poor. I literally started a business to get out of poverty, and then now I'm not broke, and so I'm in kind of that upper spot economically, and it's a very interesting personal spot to be in, and also very annoying because I don't
Yeah.
want that to be the case.
Well,
I want everybody to have the things.
yeah. You know, we actually measure the success of our programs in three different ways. One of them is ownership of self. We really want our entrepreneurs to have more life choices because they're a business owner, right? With economic growth comes more power. And you know, we want our entrepreneurs to have more wealth, just flat out. Business ownership should be bringing you wealth. That is a hard goal of ours. But then the last one we really measure is our community health. And you know, people don't often think about this, but business owners are community leaders almost by default because you have economic sway where you work. And so when we think about how certain communities are so much more impacted by these economic moments and these disadvantages in the recession, and they're at the mercy of people who don't even live in their communities anymore because they don't have economic power. Entrepreneurship and starting small businesses is a way to have community power again, be a leader, and have sway so that you can try to combat some of these inequities in the way that wealth, you know, distribution is harming our communities.
Yeah. And it's just so cool the ideas that you see in entrepreneurship. Like the business owner you mentioned when we were kind of chatting before, who's creating beauty products that literally do not have packaging, specifically because there is no recycling access in a lot of rural communities. And so just these really hyper local things that you can do with entrepreneurship. And I think one of the beauties of starting a business that isn't traditionally investable in these ways that we think about, like, oh, you want to start a software company and get investment and whatever people say, or you are kind of building that out. But you can do these really cool, interesting things when you don't have to answer to an investor, when you are the only person involved in your business.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what are some cool ways that you see entrepreneurs solving some of these weird problems that people just don't think about sometimes?
You know, it is really interesting because we've gotten some really cool businesses. I mean, you know, in Colorado, you've got a variety of things that you can have, you know, and when you have homesteaders, like we've had entrepreneurs who have camel farms and who make camel milk products, and we've had entrepreneurs who I'm wearing these are a Jabu accessory. I'm wearing our entrepreneur rings now. So we have folks who do a little bit of everything everywhere. And I think what really kind of unifies folks who come to RMMFI is a little bit what you're talking about of like some have huge dreams and want to grow, but they're really starting at that smaller level of what can I do for myself with my business right now. And they are working on these necessarily like these smaller concepts, and they see things in their communities that are really interesting. We had somebody who wanted to start a business that was like an app for folks to use restrooms that were ADA compliant so that they could find them places. And like, they were traveling through rural Colorado and they needed, and they just solve these problems. And so that's a really unique way to think of like, oh, here's what I'm experiencing. I'm sure other people are experiencing this. How do we create a solution that could be on demand? And so, we get a lot of things like that. We've gotten, people who want to bring like a cultural element to their area. So we've got like kava bars that have opened in rural Colorado, and people who want to bring in sober living cultures, whether through housing or through parties. So we get people who are like experiencing the things in their life, and they think I'm not the only one and there's got to be some way to do it. And then they want to kind of start to live their passion and bring that to everyone. And so that's really cool, kind of live the dream type of entrepreneur. Like, this is a cool concept I have. We also get folks who are like pure entrepreneurs. And I also love that. And they get into idea and our idea phase. You can kind of come in and start with us and just have like a bunch of ideas and say, I want to be an entrepreneur. And they work through some ideation and they do research on what's going to be profitable. And, they go, I'm starting this business because I think it's going to make money. And what I really want is a business. I'm not passionate, like I want to be an entrepreneur. And so they've got that really cool mindset of like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make money. This is going to be a thing that is going to lead to the next thing. Let's just do it. And so we get a lot of those folks who are either living the dream or, really looking to just be pure entrepreneurs. And it's really cool to kind of work with the two types in the same cohort.
Yeah, I have mentored for the Idea Lab a couple times, and it is fun. It
It
is a
is.
delightful, delightful thing to like see how people shape. And so in that kind of space, and then also I've seen this in the boot camp programs, is you really do get that huge wide ideas. And so how do you as an institution help people through some of those ideas that can be really tricky? So like I'm thinking about one time I mentored somebody who wanted to start a podcast, which is a notoriously tough way to make a profit on. You really have to rely on that ad revenue. Or a couple of years ago, I saw somebody come through your program who was into NFTs. I'm sure you have people who are looking at AI programs now, but these things that sort of have these weird bubbles and
Yeah.
maybe don't have that longevity. And so how do you help entrepreneurs think about that? Is this a long-term profitable measure? What do you need to do if this industry changes? How do you help them think through those types of ideas?
We use we use some innovation engineering kind of activities in our idea lab where we really help people kind of think through the various ways that the situation might change, their business concept might change. And we definitely do a lot of like the grid mapping of like what's accessible and easy to start right now. I mean, that is something we really ground in. We're working with high barrier populations. The risk tolerance is lower, right? So we don't have 20 grand to throw into a concept and see if it works. We don't have 20 hours. Like a lot of folks are working full-time jobs, their parents, they're doing all their things. So we really do talk through like what is accessible right now and how can we do something that is low barrier, easy. And then we talk about really how do you test it to see if it's a viable business concept, right? Like the earlier you can test something, the better. We try to get through all of that before we even get to our core boot camp where you're really building your business plan, because you don't want to invest 12 weeks of your life and you know get a loan and have capital and something you're paying back if you're not really sure of the business concept. So, testing as quickly and as cheaply as possible is something we really try to work through with our entrepreneurs is like, how do we test this concept in a way that's going to cost you very little? How do you gather feedback? And how can you incorporate those concepts to kind of bulk up your idea? Something we're working a little more closely on now is like really talking about the state of where we're at. We are in a very interesting time economically, tariffs and fluctuating demand. And some people, as you said, this divide is happening where, folks couldn't afford a lot of the middle class things. Are people going high, low? How do you kind of address the need? And we're actually seeing a shift right now kind of in the applications and businesses we're getting. We are less, I think, a little bit product and a little more service industry things that people are always going to need. That's kind of a safe thing at the moment. but people, we really try to work with folks to have them make their own selection about what they want to do with their business. Because the reality is we might not see it and the entrepreneur might. And so we work through the activities, but at the end of the day, we want the entrepreneur to be the CEO. They need to make the decisions about their business. They need to be able to stand by it. And who are we to like knock down someone's vision? We can just bring the support we can and have them think about it as deeply as possible. And then we support them on that journey.
Right. And that's actually one of the things I appreciate a lot about kind of that you teach decision making more than you teach what to do, right? And that's something when I teach entrepreneurship skills, I'm also very much in that same market of I don't actually want to teach you what to do. I want to teach you how to make a decision about what's right for your business. And so everything in Outgrow Your Garage is set up on that same principle. But I think
Yeah.
it really lets you navigate some of those pieces around, is this industry just new or is this a bubble? Or is this a new job that didn't exist before? I think about all of the kids who looked at their guidance counselors in like 2012 and said, I want to grow up to be a YouTube influencer, which wasn't a thing you can do.
Yeah.
You couldn't do at the time. And their guidance counselors were like, you can't just be an internet star. That's not a job. But like demonstrably it is.
I
You
know.
can do that. And so you never know
Right.
what's going to be that
And
type
some
of thing.
industries fade, right? How many people went to school to be tech support and then that all left America, right? There were the things shift and fade. And so you just kind of have to support people as much as you can with where they're at. And I do stand by it. Like sometimes though we don't see the vision the entrepreneur does, and we have to trust that they are CEO and that they are the one who knows the work best. They're the one who's closest to it. And so at the end of the day, if that's their mission and their dream, we try to stand by it.
Yeah. So you have been in the entrepreneurship world for a long, long time. So I have been involved with RMMFI for just about a decade now. You've been there that whole time. Um,
Only 6 years. You've been here before me. This
really,
will be
I
my,
always
my
think you were
seventh
there
year.
like the whole time. But okay. Anyway, you've been with RMMFI for a long time.
Long time.
What keeps you there, right?
Yeah.
7 years is a long time to hold a job in the nonprofit world
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, it'll be seven this year. I love the mission. I really do love the mission, and I love the work we do. I have a core fundamental belief for myself that people are capable of doing whatever they want. It's a lack of resources that prevents them from achieving. And I do think that sometimes we create this narrative in America that those who have somehow earned it more than those who haven't. And I just fundamentally disagree with it. Uh, we are capable of so much if we just had access. And I get to create that at RMMFI. And that brings me joy every day of my life. Just knowing that people who, I mean, things like mentorship, our community, sometimes we have to work with them and remind them they can tell their mentors no because they've never had support and outside advice from just like community members. And I just think that's such a powerful effect of what we do. One of the things you've said to me when I first started working here is that you felt like RMMFI was kind of like your rich uncle, right? Like you never had a rich uncle and RMMFI was it. And it was like because we had advice, right, around how to do a business, we could help you out, and then we could give you some seed money to get started. And I think that is true. So many people don't have that network. They don't have that family member. And then there's a whole bunch of people who do, right? And I love getting to kind of take that apart. And I work with an outstanding team. Genuinely, I've never worked with a team that cares this much about the community they serve. But everyone I work with is so dedicated to our entrepreneurs. And it's like an empowering, passionate work environment to be in every single day. And right now, when things are rough, and it is hard to, kind of navigate some of this, it feels really great to feel like I'm actively trying to do something to create economic justice in our world. It really does. It like I can sink into that and know I am doing my part. And everyone we work with, our entrepreneurs are outstanding people. It's like such an honor to support them.
Yeah, no. And I know a lot of the entrepreneurs have also come back as mentors because I am not the only one who has really appreciated the effort and the energy that RMFI put into me. And um, in a lot of ways, and you've probably heard me say this before too, is Outgrow Your Garage kind of picks up where RMMFI leaves off in a lot of ways in terms of how our educational programming was, because I was filling in a different gap where I went, okay, these are all the things that I called RMFI and they tried to help me with it and they couldn't quite get there because business growth in the 3 to 7 year time frame or navigating some of the issues just isn't your specialty. And so I really appreciate the ways that we kind of just barely Venn diagram a lot of the
Yeah.
different support organizations. So everybody kind of fills this little niche. But one of the things that I think that makes RMFI specifically really special is you're really one of the only business launch support organizations that really grounds into this individual mentor idea, right? Every entrepreneur that goes through your boot camp gets an individual mentor that is focused only on their business. And so how do you think that helps the
Yeah.
entrepreneurs going through your program?
I mean, I think for me, that's the secret sauce. We have this amazing program, this classroom that creates the community mindset shift, has our curriculum grounded in it. But it can be really hard. I think one of the things that's a barrier for a lot of folks is traditional classroom learning without kind of the one-on-one application can be really difficult for folks in general. And so to take those concepts then that you're learning in a classroom setting and then meet with a mentor team who's really invested in your business, they get to know you over 12 weeks, they understand your passion. Um, and then to have them look at your business model, look at and help you interpret it to make sure it really fits for what you need, right? Because it's not our classrooms are all mixed industries, and so some folks are in they got to write a bid, but some people are making price sheet. It's very different, and so to have a mentor who can really tailor the educational pieces to fit the entrepreneur is part of the powerful impact. And then it's also helping folks understand how to use a mentor, have a mentor. Not everyone's had that access, like I said before, and so that community, that belief, we work with CEOs and financial bankers. We get a lot of volunteers from banks who are financial coaches with us. That kind of connection piece helps open up the networking world for our entrepreneurs. They kind of see how they can network beyond even just our classrooms with CEOs, right? With bankers who are going to be able to support them as their business grows. And so it both helps prepare them for the after the program, it helps apply the program in the moment. And I think it reminds them that they're seen, they're an individual. When life gets hard, they have people they can talk to. And that is priceless for anybody in any industry, right? Any business. So it's that human element.
Yeah. And I love that about how the program operates. And I still run into some of my mentors at RMFI events. And it's fun, now I've been a business owner for a decade. I'm not calling them for advice anymore. I've kind of built my own network out of that, but it mattered. And it does matter that you can call someone and say, please help. I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Somebody help.
And I'll say it's really fulfilling to be a mentor. I've done it every single year. I'm doing it in this next boot camp. And it is really great to be able to use some of these skills to make such a huge impact on somebody's business at these early stages. And so much of what our entrepreneurs need is really a community that believes in them and can help them see how the business can be successful. That Aaron Whiskey moment with you of just saying, this is a business. Like that reminder every day is so good.
Yeah. So RMMFI is a nonprofit, and you get some amount of your funding from grants, and you get some amount of your funding from loan payback, and some amount from donations, and all of those different types of things. But to do all of that, you need to actually measure the impact that RMMFI has, which I think you guys do a really, really good at. So when you talk about RMMFI, what is your go-to piece of data that you're like, this is the piece of data that I like to cite that talks about how
Uh,
cool we are?
Well, last year it was our social return on investment was the one I cited very often, which said for every dollar given to RMMFI, $6 were put back into the community, and two of that went directly to the entrepreneur. So through their business ownership, they got double the amount that we got donated, and then another four of that is into our community because they hire people, they pay taxes, reduction on public benefits, and so being able to kind of prove that your programs have this impact on not just the individual you're working with, but the entire community you're serving in, whether they contributed to you or not, is pretty awesome. But honestly, one of my favorite ones is we've launched over 700 businesses in the state of Colorado. It's amazing to think. And when we think about some of our rural communities and the impact that we've had in some of these rural places, 15 businesses in a rural community has a massive impact. And so I'm just really proud that we have been around for, 17 years and been able to do that much. And then the other one I really love is 2 years out, over 70% of our businesses are still operating. So that's a fun one too, because it feels a little above the average there.
It is above the average, and it's so cool that that is a thing that is true, because if you have support and you can navigate some of those pieces of, um, I often say that the first year of entrepreneurship is all about getting burned by the thing that you needed to know 3 weeks ago, but you didn't know you needed to know it until
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
And so as much of that you can alleviate,
Yeah.
and create the space in the rest of your business to deal with those things,
Yeah.
your just likelihood of success really goes up. So yeah, so how do people get more involved with RMMFI?
Yeah.
How do they find you? How do they give you money? How do they come mentor with you?
Yes. Thank you.
What
Thank
should
you.
people know about how to find you next?
All right. So rmmfi.org, rmmfi.org. Check us out. If you want to be an entrepreneur with us, click the Get Started button, hit the Dream Survey, fill it out. One of the people on our team will get in touch with you. We offer programming entirely in Spanish for the state of Colorado. We offer English programs, Colorado, Denver Metro, lots of stuff going on. So you can easily get involved with us. Somebody from the team will talk to you about all of our lending options, our programming options, and when things begin. If you want to volunteer with us, same thing. Go to our website, click Get Started, hit volunteers. We would love to have you volunteer. We actually do 2 volunteers. We try to have 2 volunteers per every entrepreneur in our boot camp, which means we need double the mentors than we need entrepreneurs. And we always need financial coaches, and we especially always need Spanish-speaking financial coaches. And so, I will just say a lot of the folks who have banking backgrounds have found volunteering with us to be an incredibly powerful experience because it is such a great way to transfer your skills. I think sometimes people can feel like, I'm a banker. What skills do I really have to give? These folks need it, and you will feel the impact of what you're able to give them. So, shout out, please, please sign up for us. We got a bunch of programs starting. And then I'll say the last really cool thing you can donate, of course, online. You can always donate through Colorado Gives to RMMFI. We have a monthly donation program. And then, we give out enterprise tax zone credits. So you can always donate to us and get a tax credit too. And then the biggest thing that RMMFI has going on is we've actually just revamped our entire bootcamp curriculum. I don't know if you know that, Jesse, but with all of the changes that have happened this year, we have taken a more critical look at what we've done with the bootcamp, and we are kind of going through to kind of make sure people are really ready to launch a business in these kind of little bit of a shifty economic times. And so the program now is got a lot of more test components in it. And so a lot more education in the front half, and then the second half of the program being a lot more like how do we get a sales test in? How do we prove viability of product? How do we revamp your finances again now that you've done some solid selling? And so the program this time is going to be even more powerful than it was before. We're really excited about the changes. We had a lot of great volunteers help us revamp our financial workbook. And so, it's going to be a really cool year for us. Volunteer, entrepreneur, donor, get in touch. We want to work with all of you.
Yeah, nice. I'm really excited to see the new financial workbook. Honestly, that's like how you guys present finances is one of my favorite things, and I love it. So
It, and I think
on a
it's only
nerdy
gotten
level.
stronger. It's only getting stronger with this one. We've got some really cool like know your number stuff we're adding in as the beginning part. It's going to be a really great program.
Excellent. As soon as I have some free time, I'm gonna start volunteering again. I just need my own personal entrepreneur education schedule to simmer down a little bit. But we're getting there, and it'll be exciting. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
We will put the link to rmfi.org down in the description, so take a look there. And have a great day, y'all.